Welcome to Psychic Insights, where pop culture meets higher consciousness and the tea is always a little bit mystical. I'm Robin Richardson, your psychic girlfriend, and around here we don't just watch the drama unfold. We read the energy behind it, whether it's celebrity scandals, reality TV, chaos, or true crime with a twist. I'm tuning in to bring you the intuitive scoop the headlines miss. So buckle up, because your aura's about to get entertained. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about something different. Someone different, actually. And his name has been all over the news and, frankly, all over my For You page. I don't know why, but you guessed it, it's Luigi Mangione. He's the dude that's accused of killing former United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in December of 2024, shot from behind on a Manhattan street on his way to an investor conference. And Luigi has been charged with both the state and federal levels, and the federal case is death penalty eligible. All right, so he has pleaded not guilty. And as of this recording, his pre-trial hearings are still ongoing, including current hearings about whether key evidence can be used in court. And this is what's kind of got me. What's going on here? And let's really be honest here. This is real life and not a Netflix show, not celebrity news that I like to do. This is a man who lost his life, and there are families devastated, and there's a young man who could spend the rest of his life in prison or face the death penalty. So nothing in this episode is about glamorizing violence or turning this into fan fiction. But what I am going to do is look at the spiritual and energetic layers of why people are so fascinated with him. I mean, look at him. Anyway, why some of the corners of the internet will romanticize him, and how his astrology, numerology, human design, and Zodiac, the Chinese Zodiac, paint a picture of a very particular archetype. And the collective has just been reacting to. Anyway, this is not about guilt or innocence, and these are only my insights, my commentary, my thoughts. We let the courts decide all of that. But what we are going to talk about are archetypes, energy, and the collective shadow for entertainment purposes only. So I had to ask the question, why are people so infatuated with him? And let's start with the obsession. On paper, this case hits a lot of collective nerves. He's an Ivy League educated young man from a very well-off family, accused of killing a powerful healthcare CEO, a symbol for many people of a system they feel has failed them. And anytime you have a story where a single individual is pitted against a massive, unpopular institution, people start projecting archetypes: the vigilante, the whistleblower, the avenger, the anti-hero. And to that, he's relatively good looking. So he appears in court very calm and composed. And there's an official defense website trying to correct misinformation and share his side of the story. So the collective unconscious goes, is he a monster, or is he saying something about the system through his existence? People aren't just reacting to him. They're reacting to their own feelings about money and power, healthcare, and justice. And let's see how this shows up in his chart. I was so freaking curious. I was like, I'm also going to cover a couple other people that I don't particularly care for, but I'm fascinated by who they represent in our collective. So look for that if you're interested in that. So his astrology has this system challenger signature. So I'm using his public birth date, which is May 6, 1998 in Towson, Maryland, and he's a Taurus Sun. I don't know what's going on with these Tauruses, with Mars also in Taurus and a Virgo moon. If you're following my Laura Owens case, she's also a Taurus. It's crazy what's going on with these Tauruses. Anyway, his Taurus Sun and Mars in Taurus and Virgo Moon tells us a lot. So the Taurus Sun and Mars in Taurus is stubborn earth energy, and it's slow to move, but once it commits, it's very hard to stop. This can be the builder, the engineer, the person who just keeps grinding until something is done. In the shadow, it can become very locked in. And this is the truth, this is the line, and I'm not budging. If you've ever dealt with Scorpios, if you ever dealt with Tauruses, you know how stubborn they can be. All right, so, his Virgo moon is the emotional analyzer, constantly scanning for what's wrong, what's broken, what's out of integrity. And that's a great deal detail work, coding, systems. It can also create obsessive loops around injustice and imperfection. So right away, we have an archetype of someone who feels things through the lens of what's wrong and how do I fix it. And he has the stamina to act on that, and sometimes to the extreme. He also has a lot of Aries energy in his chart, like planets like Mercury, Venus, and Saturn, which turns up the heat. So Aries wants to act now, confront now, resolve now. So we got Taurus, stubborn values, Virgo, critical analysis, and Aries, impulsive action. And you can feel the pressure cooker that in that combination. So let's talk about what was going on for him in 2024 through this next year in 2026, because astrologically, the last couple of years have been wild for someone with strong Taurus placements. Uranus, the planet of shock, disruption, and revolution, have been moving through Taurus, shaking up identity, money, and security for people with planets there. Yeah. I can see that. I can see that in some of the Tauruses I know, and Tauruses that I've been covering. So for someone like Luigi, that's like the universe plugging his Sun and Mars into an electrical outlet, and he gets sudden breaks with the past, extreme changes around values, resources, and safety, radicalization around what feels right or wrong. And at the same time, we've had Pluto shifting through Capricorn into Aquarius, highlighting clashes between individuals and systems, corporations, government, tech, and exposing power structures. And that's the larger backdrop in his case unfolding inside of. And energetically, 2024 through 2026 is not just a crime and a trial. It's a bigger story about the individual versus the machine. So when we look at his human design, that adds just another layer. Okay, so he's a manifesting generator, emotional authority, 4-6 profile, and the right angle cross of consciousness. And in plain English, in plain language, manifesting generators are built to move fast when something lights them up. When frustrated or blocked, that energy can be volatile. Emotional authority, he's not designed to act in the moment. He's supposed to ride emotional waves and wait for clarity, which is incredibly hard in real life, especially under pressure. His 4-6 profile is people project onto him. The 4th line is about community and network, and the 6th line is the future, role model archetype, the person others look at and make into a symbol. Now, is this starting to come together for you on this, when it's certainly lighting up my understanding of why he's who he is in this life, right? He's got the right angle cross of consciousness, which is huge. It's the life theme of trying to understand reality, to question, to doubt, to push through experiences in order to reach some deeper truth about consciousness itself. And this is not a quiet background energy. It's the energy of someone who gets tangled up in collective consciousness. Like, what is truth? What is justice? What happens when the system doesn't feel fair? He also has a 21 to 51 channel, sometimes called initiation, and it's the shock channel. People with this channel often live through or trigger events that shock the collective. That doesn't prove anything about what he did or didn't do, but it does explain his story and why it explodes into the public consciousness the way it has. So I also wanted to know more about his numerology, his personal years for 2024, 2025, and 2026. So we used his birthday number. And the number 5 and 6, either way gives the same result, plus the year, and reduce it to a single digit. So we've got the life path of 199856, which will equal 38. 3 plus 8 equals 11 or 2. So master number 11. Okay, when I just covered Laura Owen, she's got the master personal number of 11 this year. So, yikes. The master level, number 11, is the intuitive lightning rod. It's heightened sensitivity, spiritual voltage, visionary or extremist potential. 2 is about relationships, reflection, sensitivity. So he's really wired to pick up on collective emotion and relational imbalance very strongly. So that's who he is in the world, 11-2. Now, the personal years, his personal year for 2024 is a 1, and a year 1 is the beginning of a new 9-year cycle, and it's often marked by dramatic event that changes the trajectory of your life. So 2024 was the year of the alleged crime, the arrest at the McDonald's in Pennsylvania after a multi-state manhunt, and the start of his whole new identity as the accused CEO killer. Energetically, this new life, whether he wanted to or not, started there. Then we have this year, 2025, his personal year is a 2, and it's about relationships, negotiations, courts, and emotional processing. And that's exactly where we are now. Pre-trial hearings, evidence suppression, fights back and forth between defense and prosecution, his team launching a public-facing legal defense site, and the world splitting into camps about him. It's less about action and more about how the pieces relate. Federal versus state, prosecution versus defense, public outrage versus public sympathy. And so we look into the 2026, his personal year, which would be a 3. And a year 3 is the story, media, and narrative. Regardless of the legal timeline in 2026, it has the energy of public storytelling, documentaries, think pieces, long-form content. His case is becoming a story people use to talk about systems, whether they are healthcare, class, or justice. It doesn't say he wins or he loses. It says his story gets louder. Spiritually, year 3 often asks what story is being told about you and what story are you unconsciously telling through your life. So then we look at the Chinese Zodiac, and he was born in 1998, and that was the year of the Earth Tiger. And tigers are seen as brave, intense, and sometimes reckless. They are not background characters. Earth adds grounded, stubborn, and I'll stand my ground quality. Tigers often become a symbol, for better or worse. They carry the energy of challenging authority, rushing into danger, being admired and feared. So again, we see the same archetype. Not a quiet life, not a neutral role, but a catalytic one. All right, so what might we see energetically in his case? And here's the key. I'm not predicting a verdict. I'm reading the energy of his chart and his cycles. So for 2024, it was shock and initiation. Uranus on his Taurus planets, a personal 1 year. The 25 to 51 initiation channel all point to 2024 as his shock portal, a violent event, national media, and a sudden break with his old life. So whatever the truth of what happened that day, his soul timeline split there. So then we have this year, the 2025, which is his personal year 2, and it's a year of lawyers, judges, and systems hold the spotlight. Evidence hearings, like the current ones that are happening right now to suppress certain evidence and statements, dominate the narrative. And public opinion keeps polarizing. Some see a cold-blooded killer and some see a symbol of rage at the healthcare system. And as Saturn continues its journey through Pisces and Pluto settles more into Aquarius, there's a strong theme of systems being forced to look at their own shadow, including the healthcare industry, law enforcement, and courts themselves. And we see this in mainstream media all the time now, right? Not just mainstream media, but podcasters focusing on these topics, and it's becoming more and more, we're hearing more and more about it. In 2026, it's his personal 3-year, and it looks less like quiet resolution and more like myth making. So whatever happens in court, his story becomes content. It becomes podcasts, YouTube breakdowns like this one, think pieces, and maybe books. People use his story as a mirror for their own feelings about money, medicine, power, and control. And spiritually, I do not see his story fading. I see it mutating from a pure crime story into a bigger cultural conversation. And it's about what happens when people feel crushed by systems. And we're seeing a lot of that right now. How far is too far? And who gets called a monster and who gets to be called a martyr? And again, that doesn't mean he should be free. This is about the collective narrative, not what any court will decide or should decide. So, here's my takeaways. So, what do we do with all this, right? We're not on that Manhattan sidewalk and we're not in that courtroom, but we are all living inside the same system that produced this story. When you see people obsessing over a case like this, defending him, hating him, romanticizing him, it's just a mirror. It's reflecting back our own rage at the healthcare system and money, fear of being powerless, and fascination with people who seem to take action in ways we never would. And the spiritual invitation is not to decide whether Luigi Mangione is secretly a hero or definitively a villain. The deeper question here is, where do I feel crushed by systems, and how am I tempted to go into extremity in thought, emotion, or action instead of healing, boundaries, or aligned change? Cases like this are like collective tarot cards. They don't create the energy, they reveal it. And my hope is that this story continues to unfold through 2025 and 2026. We're at the end of it right now, but starting 2026. And that we just don't obsess over one man, but actually take a look at the bigger structures and wounds that made this story possible in the first place. Thank you for sticking with me during this episode. Like and follow, subscribe for more content like this if you're into it. And leave a comment if something resonates with you about this, and if you'd like to see other people covered. I've got a couple on deck that I'm curious about and want to explore more. And if you want to hear more about my views and insights on Luigi, just like and follow for more. And I'll see you in the next one.